The topic of today's video is, as I said, what if TUSKA Daemon Killer, Khorne's favorite mushroom, what if he escaped from the warp? Alex, my dear Belial, give us a little quick rundown summary of who is Khorne's favorite mushroom man.
Well, this guy is what can only be described as the ultimate orc. He is a guy that just likes traveling around, looking for the biggest scrap to have with his boys. And he's the biggest and baddest orcs around, or so he believes. One day, he was strolling around space, having a good old time looking for the next big scrap. As suddenly, a weird portal started to appear within his bridge. He was at this point still in the bowels of his ship, and he heard explosions and shooting and screaming on the comms, and he had no clue what's going on. But all excited and giddy for the next big fight, he grabbed his big claw, grabbed his gun, put on his armor, took his biggest and baddest boys with him, and then ran to the bridge straight. As he got there, he saw what can only be described as a light source, or maybe even a portal. From this portal came many riddling little creatures, including some bigger ones, which absolutely terrified most of the orcs, but excited almost all of them. They had a good old scrap, and Tuskan Daemon Killer very quickly got a taste for fighting these demons. It was a good fight, they fought well, many of his orcs died, and it happened through most of his fleet. But oh boy, he wanted to see more. So he traveled around, searched around, because he knew these demons were up to no good, and he wanted to fight them for some good fun times. At some point he realized, where do demons come from? Where do demons go? As he had killed those earlier demons, he had seen how weird boys were most likely the source of this case. And he tried multiple times to get another portal to open, but it just didn't work. So then he realized, what if I go to that big ass portal in the sky, fly in there, and just go to them instead of trying to get them to get to me? So he packed his ships and flew to the Eye of Terror. Cadia was terrified at this point. They had been through like 50 wars. They're just having a bad old time. And one moment they're fighting Tyrannids, the other moment they're fighting Eldar, the other moment is goddamn demons. And then an orc fleet shows up? Come on, man.
Okay, like, I'm sorry, but if anyone who's new here, the fucking mentality of an orc, I just got assaulted by demons of the god of murder. Hey, let me go into the giant rift in hell to fight them. That's what I'll do.
That sounds like a great plan.
I fucking love orcs, man. Orcs are just great.
It's awesome. So, as he got to the Eye of Terror, the humans didn't really want to get in the way of this guy going into the warp. They realized, well, if he goes in, he's probably gonna die. But he's gonna take a lot of demons with him. If he doesn't die, he's gonna kill all the demons, and orcs are a little bit more manageable than your average slashy demon. So, they let him through.
Oof, good god.
And before you know it, he landed on a world where it was just completely
being that guardsman. Like, you just see, like, oh no, the orcs are coming for us. They speed directly past you and head straight into hell.
They just speed right past your planet. You're like, oh, thank fucking god. Probably some orcs did get off for a good old scrap. But
Probably.
It probably was a pretty smooth ride overall. So, over time, he got in there and he found a big flashy planet. Nothing to fight, nothing to kill. But as he was running around on the planet, he realized something. The floor was made from something nice and squishy. He took out his axes. He took out his boys. He's like, boys, punch the ground. So they did. They started tearing apart the flesh planet's skin, digging miles deep into its crust, trying to get to its source. In reality, this complete planet was just one fucking large demon. Planet-sized demon. And he was not happy about some goddamn mushrooms pushing into his skin. So, as a reaction, he started spawning antibodies, which, in the 40k setting, we can only describe as blood ladders. Many blood ladders, larger demons, Khorne started to take attention to some weird invasion happening on one of his nearer planets, like deep within the Eye of Terror. So he sent out some big guys. In the end, the Orks kept winning. They were doing really well for themselves, and because they were on a planet of meat, Orks still need food. But if you're on a planet of meat, the whole planet is made of cheese. It's like the moon being made of cheese. It's the same thing. It's awesome. So they kept fighting and fighting and fighting for months and even years straight. Until at one point, this big demon prince arrived. And Tuskan fought this big guy. He did a good number on the demon, but the demon ended up almost fully killing him. Tuskan was on his back. The demon looked down, about to thrust his sword down. And Tuskan did the good old grab a sack. He pushed his power claw right up into the demon's crotch. Twisted.
Right,
and then they both died. They both passed out back into the warp.
Okay, Tuskan won that though.
Well, Tuskan didn't win it. I mean, if you win it with the ball twist, the ball twist is just an instant W. So freaking amazing.
Because
it gives you
now that demon prince has to live with the shame of dying by death by cock. So
death by cock and ball torture. That's rough.
Literally. Damn, even Slanesh was proud about that.
Yeah, most likely. Slanesh probably had a good old laugh about that. So, Tuskan dies. And Khorne looks upon this whole spectacle and can't help himself but probably get a little chuckle out of it. So, he decides to take the Demon Killer's soul, put it back in, give all of his orcs back everything the way they're supposed to be, let him repopulate the planet, and let him fight again. They repeat this cycle every 24 hours, where the orcs come back alive because their spores spread around the planet, which is very important because that means they're not actually demons at this point, they're still orcs. They just remember their past lives in this case. So they get smarter and better at it. And at some point, Demon Killer impresses Khorne so much that Khorne can't help himself but bring Demon Killer right to his brazen right to his brazen fortress. Put him right out in front and let him fight his best, most elite demonic armies until the end of times. And now here we are, 230 years later, and every single day, every 24 hours, it's happening again.
So, allow me to explain why that's so important. For those of you who don't know, the Orks are a devolved version of the Krork. Now, what is a Krork? A Krork is essentially an Ork, but a Space Marine Ork. They were created by the Old Ones to fight the Necron, Seers, and the Catan in the War in Heaven. So, imagine an Ork, but with the brain of a Space Marine, twice as big, with power armor, tactics, superhuman everything, and Ork regeneration. Now, mind you, Orks can get their head blown off and regrow it and be fine. The greatest Ork to date, His Majesty Margaret Thatcher, aka Gazgul Mag Urk Thraka, had his head cut off and reattached to a bigger body. So they are even more durable than Space Marines. So imagine that durability increased with power armor, with power weapons, and strategy, and a chain of hierarchy command. That's a Krork.
Oh.
So a Krork is one of those things where we have no idea what they are going to do because GW has never touched on it, but they could easily fuck up a group of Krorks could fuck up a Primarch.
Oh yeah,
that's the gist of it.
Primarch were just food soldiers during the War in Heavens. Like they would have been food soldiers at that point.
So the greatest generals of humanity are foot soldiers to a Krork. And why did the Krorks devolve? 2 reasons. 1, they didn't have the Old Ones guiding them. 2, they didn't have a good enough enemy to fight. Orks get bigger, stronger, and smarter the more and more they fight, which is why you have Gazgul, who is the biggest, strongest, smartest Ork, who can speak proper High Gokethic, What the fuck was that?
Gothic?
Who can speak proper high Gothic, mind you? Essentially 40k Latin.
Which is insane. Even I can't speak that.
It's crazy. Like Tuska reciting Caesar's death ode, but fucking later Jesus, like that's quality. Anyway, so the more you fight, the more you become like a Krork. And it's not only how much you fight, it's the quality of who you fight.
How good are they? How bad are they? How much of a big bad guy are they? And demons are like number one.
Demons are crazy strong. So, Krorks devolved into Orks because they didn't have enough people to fight, they didn't have good enough people to fight, and maybe the elves did some shenanigans. I wouldn't put it past you, because elves are like that. Quality girlfriends, nothing much else. Fucking knife years.
Oh lord.
Hey, submissive LDRGF. Quality.
True!
I said what I said. Okay, miss me with that dark elder goth GF. Not my cup of tea. But the whole point of what we're talking about today is Tuska and his boys have been fighting the best of the best demons. And not even the best demons, the best combat demons being Khorne, not even those, the elite of the elite of the best combat demons of the god of war, death, murder, and blood. For over 200 years.
That's a lot of years.
They are Krorks at this point.
Yeah.
I'm convinced. They are Krorks. So, what would happen if Khorne decided that, hey, this dude has gotten really good at murdering? What would happen if I use them as shock troops?
You know, just deploy them for a little shenanigans around the galaxy.
And like Alex said, they're not demons. They're still orcs.
Yeah. They still...
So you can't banish them.
Yeah, they still work like fungus. They just regrow like the way they do, but they've just got the added benefit of remembering everything from their past lives. And loving every second, most likely, of it, because they just get a longer life in their case.
Yeah.
Infinite life glitch.
And yeah, because orcs naturally are very hard to kill and are theoretically immortal. But the question begs, we know that the orcs are not demons, but that doesn't mean that they couldn't be warp infested or have some warp shenanigery. I can totally see Khorne giving them blood, but it's like warp blood, where if they lose a limb, the blood just automatically regrows the limb, or if it slants on someone, it's like xenomorph blood with like acid or something. I can imagine Khorne doing some shit like that.
I'd imagine it'd be to the level of like the Space Marine like regeneration, or like at least the blood clotting thing, where like how we know that a Custodes got shot in the head and just fought fine for 2 more days straight. These orcs could probably do that, plus they're Krork level at this point, because it isn't just TUSKA Daemon Killer that's coming out supercharged.
It's the whole
It's a
wog.
whole ass wog. And to add some, you know, because Khorne doesn't care from whom the blood flows, he would probably just give them some Vashtorr level weaponry to make it
100%.
even more effective. Give them bloodletter swords and they will tear through Space Marines like butter.
Yeah, definitely. Because I can totally see that, because Khorne's whole premise is that he rewards those who do well. Khorne is a meritocracy, and that's something that people don't forget. Another thing that people forget is that while Khorne isn't like Zinchor, he's all about magic, isn't like Nurgle, where he has like festering auras, or like Sinesh, which is just enough horny to kill someone, literally.
Yeah.
He is still magical in that sense. Like, what was it? The Lord Invocatus? Homeboy literally rides a bridge made of blood.
Yeah, like it's
Khorne does some crazy shit.
He maybe doesn't like wizards, but he's still completely magic based. And
so
he knows about magic because that's what he uses to empower his people. So in this case, I guess my first main question for this whole scenario would be, would he be released or would he just get out by himself?
I think he would be released because Tuska doesn't want to leave. Yeah. He's an orc, right? And he's an orc heaven.
Yeah,
but
this is orc heaven for him.
Legit. But if Khorne says, hey, I found someone else stronger to fight, go fight them, he'll gladly agree.
Yeah.
You know? So technically, Khorne has a Krork War, not an Ork War, a Krork War. And the big thing here is like, Krork. Because, powered up orcs are deadly, right?
Yeah.
But a Krork is in a whole different league.
It's
like you said it yourself. Dude, imagine Vashtorr power armor, but it's like each power armor has like a bloodletter infused with it. So it's like a suit of demon metal.
Demon power armor.
Legit. It's possessed power armor. And the Krorks have no issue with demons because they're not possessed. So to them it'd be normal power armor, but they could give it the like Necron regenerating metal and shit. And the thing is though, the big thing, the Krorks would be smart.
Yes. They would be very smart
Like-
about things. They'd actually use tactics in this case.
Exactly. Like Tuska is smarter than Gaz right now.
Yeah.
So that's the big thing. So like I said, you have Ork Space Marines. Or in this case, Ork World Eaters, I think would be a much better description.
Honestly, yeah. It's also important to remember, right? So why do we know for pretty certain they're Krorks? Is because we've seen before with the War of the Beast, which is a famous period around 1500 years right after the Scourging, we see
Rogeldorn.
Rogeldorn. We see that
In the past, I was me. Rip TTS, you'll always be here in our hearts.
Rip TTS. So what we do know is that orcs, even if they fight each other, just other orcs, over the course of about 1,000 years, if left completely unchecked, they will go to Krork level material. Like, granted, they did have Krorks die on that planet, so there would be still very fresh fungus from that time. Meaning that some of the orcs that will grow there will be naturally larger, bigger, and better and stronger. But they were just fighting other orcs. Demon, TUSKA Killa, the guy has been killing orcs or not orcs, he's been killing demons for over 200 years, which are the best fight to have. So he's gonna, at this point, they may as well be Krorks. Maybe not War in Heavens level Krorks, but they're like over demi-Krorks, over the 12 we saw.
I argue that they would be War in Heaven Krorks because the War in Heaven was very heavy on psychic shenanigans. The old ones were psychers. The katana, basically psychic energy. And lo and behold, what is in the warp? Psychic shenanigans.
Yeah.
So I put my money on that.
I definitely say they are at this point full Krorks in that case.
Yeah.
So then the next question would be, right, is why would Khorne release them?
Blood for the Blood God, baby.
Yeah, I think if the, let's say right now, we know about the setting, the Lion is coming back, Big G is back, we have a lot of other big characters most likely returning in the next couple of years.
Just a quick pause on that. Winter Knight asked the questions like, who do you guys think would win between Angron and Tuska? Personally, I think Angron would. I mean, come on, Angron is Khorne's least favorite demon champion, yet he's the most bloodthirsty demon prince.
Plot armor.
Wait, Khorne... Does Khorne not like Angron? I thought Khorne was...
he's alright about him.
I thought... Really? Because Angron is the best demon prince. He is the greatest demon prince. All the demon Primarchs are the greatest demons of them.
Yeah.
I think... Yeah, Tuska would win, actually. Because if we're going off the basis of Krork, Tuska is an alpha Krork. Because he's been beating the absolute shit of greater demon princes. So the way that it works is you have lesser demons, which are bloodletters. You then have regular demons, which are like those that go in the engines and what. They have the greater demons, which are the bloodthirsters. And then you have the demon princes, rather. Yeah. The demon princes are elevated bloodthirsters like Scarbrand, I think, was the demon. Yeah. And they have greater demon princes, which are basically Khorne's inner circle, right?
Exactly.
So the demon prince, which was a demon prince of Khorne, was the guy who Tuska gave the old snip to. So he was able to do that as a regular orc.
Yeah.
So he has 200 years of Krork in him. I think he'd body Angron.
Yeah, but it's also like favoritism, right? Because
Yeah.
Khorne probably likes Tuska a little more than even his own demons. That's why he probably he literally got the
I'd say
guy
a
from
lot
the
more.
reality just for entertainment purposes. That's how much he likes him.
Legit. For shits and giggles.
But I can
God,
also
I love
imagine,
Khorne.
now that we know the big Primarchs are returning, the Imperium once again has a chance at survival or winning, right? What would be the best way to, well, get rid of that specific issue, the Emperor gaining more might? Well, start killing things. And what would be better than to absolutely obliterate any Imperial force, any Imperial blades, the ones that they're sending around the universe right now? What would be the best way to absolutely just murder those? Well, a Krork Warg might just do it. Especially with juiced up demon armor and demon weapons if Khorne feels so inclined to give them those. And they probably have their own from the many battles that they just won.
Oh yeah, that's true.
They'll be killing these demons, getting their weapons, because they're already in the warp, they're not disappearing, and they're just getting the best of the best weapons.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Orks are known for salvaging stuff, right?
Yeah, so they'll make it even better.
This is the warp. Yeah, this is the warp. So normally when you kill a demon, unless it's a demon weapon, like an infused demon weapon, his shit goes back to the warp with him. But we're already in the warp, so that shit would be there.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Bro, we have demon-possessed power claws.
Ugh.
This is crazy.
You know, Tuska would absolutely just body a Bloodthirster and just obliterate that demon until it fits into his power claw and just shove him in there. They're orcs.
Yeah.
They'll believe it works.
Yeah.
So they'll believe it worked. And because he has favoritism, it will work. So I guess that the next question is, right, so let's say he comes out. From what we know is now the Imperium is split in two.
Good old Roman Empire, East and West, with one being very close to death.
We have the Imperium Sanctum, and we have the
light side.
Yeah, the Imperium Sanctum.
Imperium Nihilus.
That was it. Oh, thank God.
Dark Imperium.
The Dark Imperium. We have that side as well. Now, the Eye of Terror, funnily enough, is on the light side. On the side of Terra, in this case. Tuska would get out right there, because they're orcs, they're quite simple creatures. I imagine Khorne would also let him out where he came in, the same hole, and just yeet him out there.
But like, that's the thing though, they're not orcs anymore, because that's the thing that, well, these are Krorks. So like, again, it's so odd for us when we think about, we see a Krork, we think, okay, you know, a juiced up orc. It's like, no, these are Space Marine orcs. They have tactical mindsets. So they're going after supply drops and shit, like big brain orcs.
Yeah, they could just show up on the moon. They could just show up on Terra, if anything. Like, well, the warports on Terra would be kind of hard. But the moon or even Mars is very much within the realm of possibility. I could imagine Khorne bringing out the Krorks in this case, on Mars, just to completely obliterate Mars. So the largest supply chain of the Imperium,
that makes sense.
Would then be cut off, meaning then that Abaddon has a more free reign to just do Abaddon things and be an asshole about it.
And that's the thing, is like, they have tactical mindsets. So Tuska right now is basically Guilliman but better. Yeah. In terms of like strategical mindset. So he would use the warp to open up, especially if you believe in all the theories that the Mars underneath it has a warp portal. They also have like the Void Dragon there, like it's locked up. The Emperor locked it up. So like the idea is that the Mars has the Martian catacombs, which are all filled with all types of nasties. And one theory is that there is a warp portal or like a warp generating device, like an old school Dark Age of technology, interstellar warp travel portal, something like that. Tuska would probably use that to open up and just spawn his whole war there and completely destroy Mars. Yeah. And people don't seem to understand how big of a deal that is, because Mars is not just, you know, it's not like in our case where it's like, you know, the industrial center of a country. Mars has shit in it that has been there for 10,000 years that no one knows how it works.
Yeah.
let alone how to build it. So if we lose Mars, you've lost 10,000 years of Mechanicus.
Exactly.
And the Mechanicus don't share shit. So that shit's gone.
Yeah, that's just gone because all those stockpiles, all that information, all their like partial SDCs, gone. Snapped out of existence. Now, the interesting thing to me about this is, right, we know how strong he is, and you already mentioned him against Big G. I'd say he would body Big G if given the chance without plot armor.
Oh, 100%.
Now,
Yeah,
let me pull you a sneaky one. 1v1, TUSKA Daemon Killer, Lion L. Johnson. Give me a rundown.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, the thing is, though, is like, we've already established that Primarchs are foot soldiers in terms of like war in heaven. We check with like maybe not foot soldiers, but they're not demigods. Right now in human, they're demigods. In the war in heaven, they'd be more like captains.
Yeah, captains slash generals.
But the thing is though, you have the Catan, which are literally planet. Like people don't understand. The war in heaven was something else. Like it's a whole different level.
Yeah.
Like, it's nothing compared to the Great Crusade. And the Great Crusade, compared to today, was like World War II. So it's just like very different. The thing is, though, Lionel Johnson also has some warp shenanigans going on now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he does.
The whole Forest Walker
thing. He can just teleport around, bro. He found a glitch in the system.
So that's interesting to me, because if he has warp shenaniganery, while the Orks are not, or the Krorks rather, are not demons, a lot of their tech will be demon-based.
Yeah. Or anti-demon based, depending on what they find.
The Lion... Exactly. The Lion is... People don't know, he is Tactician Supreme. Guilliman is Strategist Supreme. Well, what's interesting, tactics and strategy. Strategy is for war, tactics is for battles.
Yeah.
So... The Lion versus TUSKA, I would still say that TUSKA might win. It's just like we don't really know how strong a Krork is supposed to be.
Yeah,
we need
a good example.
Exactly, because what was it on Ulanor? That was a demi-orc, a demi-Krork, I think, who fought the Emperor.
Yeah, it's questioned that it might just have been straight up a Krork.
I think that makes more sense.
It may have just been straight up a Krork because he was able to body Big G and then like Big E and then almost bodied Horus right after.
Yeah,
which is insane, by the way. But
yeah, that's crazy.
I'd say right now that Lion is stronger than Horus was back then. So
definitely, I would agree.
I'd say it'd be about like 60% to the Krork, 40% to Lion. That's what I'm giving it. Like, plot armor giving, the Krork is getting bodied. But without plot armor, the Lion might actually get stomped if he gets unlucky.
Yeah. I would say that it's much more fair to say it's a coin toss. It really depends. It's going to come down to like the slightest advantage you can get, because I'm a firm believer that Big E, when he was fighting the Krork, was holding back so that Horus would save him, and then Horus would then be, doted on as, the War Master, because that's something Big E would do. Because if you take a look at it, Big E was holding back while he was fighting Horus, then all of a sudden, Olanius Pilus, F in chat for the biggest brass ball guardsman ever, got hit with the Kamehameha, and then Big E literally said, cease, and snapped his fingers and disappeared Horus.
Yes.
So Big E is really holding back.
Yeah,
so I would say
at this point he will like I do have that little dirty feeling of he let Horus save him to strengthen that.
100%.
But he also was quite close to death at that point. Like,
but we also saw with like Horus, Big E is not afraid to get beat up.
Yeah, he's okay with that.
Like, he would literally sacrifice his body rather than his pride. He's an asshole like that.
Yeah, he's probably into it too. Yeah, you have to make a deal with Slash somehow.
I mean, shit, yeah. Like, come on. Big E knows what's up. Miss me with that Sineshi bullshit. Eldar GF homeboy built the webboy to get that Eldari Coochie. I'm calling it. Bobby G learned it from someone, big boy.
Well, this Eldar is a reoccurring subject.
Look, I am a simple man.
You're a simple orc.
I'm a simple orc.
I am a simple Eldar GF.
Just saying. All right? Miss me with that town nonsense.
So
Miss me with that Eldar nonsense. The Dark Eldar, that is. LGF.
So how would the Imperium save itself from this situation? Because I do have a theory on how it would probably work out due to the impending doom of Leviathan.
Because I also thought about this, but my theory isn't that they're going to survive. So let's have you first. How would the Imperium... This is like the what if. So you're in your pick your own adventure. You have the left side where they fall, the right side where they succeed. So this is like, how would the Imperium survive?
All right, let me pick the right side. They succeed. So we go in. The Krorks come out, right? They probably show up close to Mars. Go in, get through their defenses. Just start absolutely damaging every pipeline that the Imperium has ever built. At least the Imperium we have now. And then they will go to Terra. As we know, Leviathan is approaching.
It's like when you're playing Hearts of Iron 4, and then you get a sneaky naval invasion. It's like, oh no, my supply lines.
Oh no! Oh no! There goes my entire fabrication, general of my entire Imperium of 1 million planets. Whoopsie daisy. They would absolutely wreck Mars. In that regards, the Imperium is fucked. But to at least give them a chance at just fighting the Krorks in this case. The Krorks would then, of course, go to Terra. They would try to get into the Imperial Palace now you've killed the Fabrication General, now you can kill the Emperor. And there you go, you've killed the two most important characters in the setting. Because in reality, Mars is more important than most Primarchs. I'm sorry, it's reality.
No, it is.
Now,
factual.
What would be next is... We know Leviathan's approaching. I'd imagine they'd just try to get out and drop their defenses. Let Leviathan encroach. Let them go in. Hard. Because the only thing that's either going to stop Leviathan or stop these Krorks is the Krorks is the same situation we've had in Octarius, which is also a terrifying prospect. We either are going to get ultra super duper ultra charged Tyrannids because they have eaten Krorks now. Oh lord.
Oh my god.
Oh no. Oh Christ.
Help.
I'm scared. I am afraid.
Because
and then the other
Tyrannids
side
get smarter too. The more they eat, the hive mind gets smarter and can build smarter Tyrannids. That's how it built the Swarm Lord.
Yeah.
It ingested Space Marine flesh, and it was like, okay, I want Space Marine. I need a Calgar. So, Krork, oh god.
Tyrannid Krorks will be terrifying. So then the next case,
Jesus.
The other case scenario is, if the Tyrannids lose, let's say the Krorks are just too powerful too fast, right? We now have another terrifying prospect. We know Krorks, just like Orks, very quickly reproduce.
Oh boy.
There's going to be a very large amount of very high level Krorks in a very short amount of time, if Leviathan doesn't eat them completely. It's going to give the Imperium time to reset, figure out what to do next, most likely hide on the other side of the Maledictum, and just try to just relocate the Emperor, have a good old time about it, and hopefully that works. But at the same time, that side of the galaxy is now simply lost. The Imperium has now shrunk by 2/3. Only 1/3 of the Imperium is left. But they survived the Krorks.
Yeah.
That is my only win case scenario in this case for the Imperium. In other words, the Krorks would just come in and absolutely destroy the Imperium, and then they would just destroy the Leviathan. The other case scenarios, they don't get out in time. They can't relocate in time. They're fucked.
Yeah.
That's it. It's over.
So that was the right side, which is the good ending. Now, here's for the left side. But, psych, this is 40k. Everything is shit.
Everything is bad.
Everything is bad. So, my scenario is really similar to yours. Basically, the way that I discover is that, hey, Tuska pops out, right? At the same time that Leviathan pops out. And Tuska annihilates Mars. The Imperium's industrial base is just gone. Guilliman, seeing this, then pulls out everyone. He evacuates Terra, he evacuates Big E, because Guilliman we've learned from the novels, he doesn't give a crap about this whole Big E's God nonsense. He doesn't care about that.
Yeah.
He cares about making the Imperium survive. So he pulls out everything and uses the beacons that they had from the Octarius War to lure the Tyrannids to Terra. He essentially creates a scorched earth tactic.
Yeah.
And he has the Tyrannids and the Ork fight each other. But here's where I'm a little different. Guilliman isn't the type of guy just to leave it be. He would send Assassinorum agents as well as Space Marine Reavers and Scouts to keep the balance in check.
Yeah.
For example, if a Tyrannid was about to break a Krork position, whoops, here's an Eversaw.
Yeah. Oh no, suddenly
And
the
he
Swarm
keeps
Lord
them-
that's leading the attack is now dead.
Exactly. So he keeps them in check. And the idea is that the Orks, the Krorks rather, and the Tyrannids just kill each other until it gets to a point where they're basically only enough people left to fight the Imperial Citadel. At that point, Guilliman would beam in with everything he has and kill both Krork and Tyrannid, reclaiming Terra and Mars. The problem would be post that. And this is where I really put a lot of my word building into it. The issue being is that Biggie has reclaimed Terra, he's reclaimed the Sol System, but the issue is he only reclaimed the Sol System. Because the rest of the western half of the Imperium, this is based off the Roman Empire. If you didn't know that, you come on. So he's experiencing a problem with Dacia. In this case, which is what the Imperium Sol System would be. It means there's nothing. Everything is gone. The West has been destroyed, right? It's ravaged by
Absolutely,
Krork, by
just
Guilliman.
completely
There is nothing.
wiped.
There's nothing. It is nothing. But Guilliman knows he has to hold the Sol System because of its moral importance.
Yeah. The birthright of
So
humanity.
Guilliman, exactly. So Guilliman now has to deal with this balancing act of ensuring that this very exposed province that is now attackable from 3 different sides stays in control, but it's basically worthless. So he needs to balance that. And then the west of the Earth, Terra, we have a whole bunch of human planets. Now, I would actually say that this would give us a chance to have, and we kind of talked about this a few days ago, new Xenos races pop up.
Yeah, the Ghoul Stars will be left unprotected.
Exactly. And one thing that I would love to see was a type of successor state pop up. So we have these weird clump of kingdoms, of planetary systems, but it's a mixture of 2 types. You have the the Imperium, so the remainder of the Imperials. But then you also have gene stealers, who, the gene stealer cults, who now there's no hive mind, they revert back to their human nature. So you get this emergence of gene stealer Imperium culture, which would be a direct reference to the Germanic kingdoms that popped up after the fall of the West. Because what most people don't know is that they had Roman institutions, Roman militaries, Roman armies, Roman style everything, but they were just Germanic. And that's the thing here. So we would have these vast new things. Like we could have one that are basically Imperial. We could have one that's own unique faction. We could have one that leans more into the Tyrannid nonsense. And then we could also have like a Krork element that's remainder. And maybe set up a little Krork Empire that could act as the Sassanid Empire to Guilliman's Byzantines.
Yeah.
Where it's like they have been neutered to the point that they're not a threat anymore, but you need to be careful because if you slip up, they're going to take everything.
Yeah, they'll take advantage
And
of the situation.
Exactly. And then during this, what would the Eldar do? The Dark Eldar, the Tau would expand dramatically during all this. Because all of a sudden, the Imperium ain't there anymore. Hello, human. Have you heard of the greater good?
Exactly. Now there's a lot more space left in the galaxy again for new races to spread out. It would slow the Tyrannid onslaught. And I think if we look at the setting as a whole, when this would happen, let's say Tuska gets released now, it'd probably be around a 500 to 1,000 year period to even get to that point where The states have now reemerged. We have successor states. We have states that actually moved over completely. The Imperium is now on the eastern fringe, on the other side of the Maledictum, away from what Terra used to be. They will have a couple little spaces around on the western side, and then we'll have some states in the
Basically
Ghoul Stars.
just Terra.
Basically just
It's like
Terra.
it's a soul system, really.
And at this point, like, it would probably take 1,000 years, but like, that would set it up very nicely to bring the setting even further, but also introduce a whole swath of new armies, new ranges, but humanity itself will in that case not change much. Yes, we will have less space to play around with. It will only be 250,000 planets instead of 1 million. But
on the east side, though.
On the east side, in this case.
That's a big thing.
We're now
on the west side.
Yeah.
That's the thing, because we were talking about this a few days ago. It's like, this could set up for 50k.
Yeah.
Well, we have the Imperium
to bring back for it as well. TUSKA would be amazing for
exactly. And it would be very good for like GW to like pay homage to this character, because the big thing that I am always critical of the Imperium is that the Imperium is heavily decentralized.
Heavily,
right?
Yeah.
Heavily. So I wish I mean, some of the best lore that we have, Pocket Empires, the Badab War. Check out Dutch 40k, the gaming storyteller, did a quality video on the Badab War.
2 of them,
Very
actually.
good channel. So, part 1 and part 2, Poor Lamenters. Quality video, go check it out. But we could get something unique in that we could get the Imperium as it was meant to be. Because the Eastern Fringe is basically Ultramar right now. Guilliman is the one seeing over that.
Yeah.
Right? We have that. And then we have this point where now Guilliman gets... Because without Terra, without all the old administration, Guilliman is now the Emperor, basically.
In a way, yeah, and even he got his weapon and everything. And as we know that the Emperor has moved on to godhood, in reality, his physical body has no meaning anymore. That's also why we see that the Golden Throne is breaking down more and more recently, much faster. Because it's just become obsolete.
And yeah, so then we get to this point where the Emperor transcends godhood, and then the Imperium then realizes, and then it changes the religion, which could also be a similarity between the adoption of Christianity in the Roman world.
Yeah.
Because then you have basically a smaller Imperium, but a better Imperium if you think about it.
Yeah,
it's more defensible,
stronger together.
Much stronger. It's basically Ultramar Grande.
Yeah.
Because Guilliman was going to build it up.
That'd be a hilarious way to reintroduce the words Imperium Secundus.
It really would.
It would be a hilarious way to bring that back.
It could be, I can imagine that being like a little inside joke between like the Lion and Guilliman. When it was just like,
I remember when I did that.
I could imagine like Guilliman talking to like one of his subordinates and be like, for Imperium Secundus, and the Lion just goes, again? And he's just like, what? And then Guilliman just stares at him, just like, shut the fuck up. That'd be quality. Yeah, it's one of those things where like, it would change the Imperium in 2 ways. It's like, one, the Imperium wouldn't be a pile of shit anymore.
Yeah.
People would not have to eat literal corpses. And
hopefully
you would get a better quality of life in everything. Like the standard Imperial Guardsmen would go back to being the Solar Auxilia.
Yeah.
All right. And the Space Marines would just get even better. Period.
Exactly.
And
their supply lines are
have...
much shorter. Their traveling times are also much shorter. Their reinforcement times, they become a lot more powerful. And then to set it up even further, they can now do little crusades back into the galaxy to return lost artifacts from the 40,000 time and the 30,000 time. That way, we bring in more reason as to why the Imperium is fighting so much. Besides, instead of being on the defensive side, they're now on the attacking side. They're trying to lash out and return what is theirs.
It's like, what we could do is that, and for the people being like, oh, but I love the Imperium because it's grim dark, hang about, mate. You got the successor states. There's your grim dark. There's all the bad
and the Imperium will still be very much grim dark because it is the 40k universe after all.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, god awful.
you may live in, let's say you live in, because there are modern worlds in 40K, which are basically our world translated.
Yeah.
Let's say you live in a modern world, right? You're having a podcast with your mate from the Dutch lands, Netherlands. Yeah, Pullminer. I know that's German. I just did to piss people off, but let's say you're doing that, right? You're eating your chicken, you're living your life, you're sleeping in your bed. It's grand, it's good. Oh, what's that? Krorks are now invading? Well, shit, son.
Oh man, that is not great. Oh shit.
Like, it's still 40K in that point.
Yeah.
It's just that it would just be realistic a little bit. But then you could also have the successor states where it's like, yes, this is a gene stealer human that are cannibals, and they believe that if they eat human beings, they get closer to their god, the four-armed emperor, which is like, there's your Grimdark. And what we could do is, like, for the launch of a 15th edition, whatever edition would be, the story is Guilliman being Justinian and reconquering the lost territories of the West. And that's the whole point, this massive crusade.
It's changing it would still be a hopeless future, right? But it's now a hopeless future, but at least there's a purpose to it all. Why keep suffering? Yeah. Why let the Imperium suffer and slowly die? Kill it off. Let it end. Let it split. Let parts be overtaken. And Tuska is just, as a character, has been set up to be, I think, a main key part.
He is the boogeyman.
He is the boogeyman. He could be an amazing key part into what that setting would even look like. He would be part of shaping it, which is also a really nice way, as a longtime Ork player myself, since 5th edition. We have not been treated the best over time. Our biggest characters kind of get punched in the face a lot. It's like being an Elder player, and then your literal shard of a god is just a punching bag for every named character in the setting. It's terrible.
That time when the Ultimate Lieutenant is the literal god of war.
It's just no problem.
But Jesus Christ,
it would be a super nice way to bring back the Orks into a powerful setting like that. Like right now, we know the Orks are powerful and everything, but we don't see their true horror to it all. How actually horrifying of a threat they actually are. They're more like seen as a pest, something that can be removed easily if you bring an exterminator, other words, Space Marines. Yeah. Krorks are not that. You don't exterminate those. They exterminate you.
No, you survive.
Maybe.
Like, you survive. Maybe.
If you're lucky.
You might.
So I think Tuska sets up such a beautiful step towards that.
Yeah. No, that's just quality. And you made a very good point. Because there are Orks who are not Krorks, and the Krorks would basically set up their own empire, right?
Yeah.
From the ashes of the west of the Imperium. The question is that then you have the other Orks, because the Krorks then have to play peacemaker between all the Orks. Because then you often have the Krorks who are trying to get the other Orks together, but they're still Orks. So it'd be a really unique thing where you have the different factions of the Krorks trying to vie for power and connect everything while keeping the Orks in check. So, because it adds something very unique. It adds a sense of order. And Orks are known for their chaos. Yeah. But we've seen that some of the best storylines the Orks have ever gotten are when order is introduced. Like Ghazghkull, the War for Armageddon.
Yeah, incredible story. And it shows how powerful Orks are when they have a singular-minded purpose. I also can imagine that very easily Krorks will realize there's no saving these Orks. And they might actually become enemies of each other, which would be hilarious. Because the Orks would be like, you're not true kids. And the Krorks would be like, you're a pesky little creature.
Yeah, it'd be one of those things where the Krorks would see them as tools, basically.
Yeah, just send dumb green guy in the right direction and he'll kill everything.
Very much. So, and also it'd be interesting because Krorks are warlike, right? But they're not like Orks. Like, Krorks are open to diplomacy. You know?
They're open to actually have conversations and save a world, save its resources, and then probably forcefully remove you a little bit after that. But
pretty much.
At least they tried.
Exactly. So basically, there's two ways they could go for it. They could go for like the Krorks being their own separate faction, and competing with the Orks, or it could be the Krorks are basically a ruling caste, right? And then you get the Orks who are below them, and the Krorks have to juggle. You could do that. That's the reason why the Krorks can't attack the Imperium, because they have to. It's like the Spartans. They have to juggle the Orks at home. If not, the Orks will just run off and do whatever the hell they want and leave their planets exposed.
Exactly.
Oh God, there's so much to do here, and we haven't even touched on the Xenos. Like, dude, there's so much here that we could use.
Definitely.
Like the Tau. How would the Tau respond to this?
I think the thing with the Tau overall is like they'll just have more space to expand, and because a lot of the Tyrannid forces at this point will be kind of removed from it all, and they'll have experienced true horror through seeing this, like what can only be described as a second War in Heavens.
Yeah,
they'll see the horrors, and they'll actually be a little less naive about it all.
Yo, the Necrons. How would the Necrons respond to seeing Krorks?
Not happy, because they had to face him before. They know how to fight him, but these Krorks, because they're from, well, probably like the first Krorks they're gonna see is the Demon Killer himself, together with his wife, which are also the demon, fucking like the demon enforced ones, the ones that are even more powerful with demonic weaponry and armor. They would not have a good time against that. I think the Silent King would have a pretty bad time with this. I can also
because
imagine,
that's the one thing that the Orks, not the Orks, sorry, the Necrons struggle with is psychic shenanigans.
Yeah, because they have no way to counter it.
Yeah.
So I think the main terrifying thing for them would be is they now have seen this. The issue is with the Silent King. Remember, he only hates one thing specifically: Tyrannids. Now the Tyrannids are, at least for a while, defeated, removing his actual purpose for doing what he does. So I'd guess that at this point he'd probably try to start doing the transferring back over into a normal body. At least most of the Necrons will.
However that happens,
and with a bunch of successionist states around, there is plenty of choice to pick and choose from. They just probably be a wall in between the Krorks, Orks, or whatever other Xenos state there is, and some successionist place they find. And they'll just slowly but surely turn them back into, Necrons here, 2.0.
And that's the thing. Like, we could have, it's interesting because we could have a Necron Civil War.
Yeah.
Which would be very interesting. Because you could have the Silent King who's like, we need to incorporate these lesser beings into us, and then they can become part of us.
Yeah.
So then you get human auxiliaries. But then you have Imhotep, on the other hand, who says, no, I want to be the Silent King, and we're going to eradicate them because they are not worthy of life.
Yeah.
Hashtag mega racist. That's basically what he
is.
Yeah,
that's what Necrons are most of the time.
And I remember we talked about this earlier a few days ago. It's like, this could be a 30k situation where you have 30k the game and the story, you have 40k, but then you also have 50k, the game of the story. A companion rather than a replacement.
And because in that way, it becomes...
Looking at you, Warhammer Fantasy!
You could have been this, but no. The main thing that I would what? So I guess also we should ask the question about... Let's go all the way back to the beginning of the conversation. TUSKA Daemon Killer. Why would Games Workshop bring him back? We have now established they could create Warhammer 40k. I think as Games Workshop is growing, and the setting is growing, and we're about to go fucking mainstream, we now have the space and community to evolve into that and get a larger community, because more species, more place for other races to expand and get their stories, more new Xenos races to show up, literal War in Heavens races showing up. At this point, there is so much more choice for the large new audience that comes here because, wow, new big shiny thing. Holy shit. For the people that enjoy 40k, they can still play 40k. The same reason that 30k players can enjoy 30k. Yes, your setting is now 20,000 years ago, but you're also a Horus Heresy nerd, so your opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah, Horus Heresy is dope, but I mean, come on, guy.
I made a video on it. That's the only video I'll ever do.
Bro, I am so hesitant to cover the Horus Heresy or like the Siege of Rocks because there's so many books. So many
It's
books.
too much for me. It's too much. Too many people have done Horus Heresy at this point.
Oh, God.
All right. Are there any other things you'd like to say about today's subject? What if
Yeah, I mean,
he gets back?
I think what Tuska does, like, as you said, he's a tool.
Yeah.
You know?
He's the ultimate
And-
tool. Right? He came in there as a tool mind-wise, but now he's coming out as a tool useful-wise.
Yeah. And it's like, how would the Eldar respond, right? Because there's two theories around that. Some people believe that the Eldar messed with the Krork on purpose so that they could get hegemony over the galaxy.
Yeah.
And if they did that, would there be any Eldar around who remember that?
No.
And if so, would they be scared and how would they react? Because the Eldar are arrogant pricks most of the time, except for the few Eldar GFs that are out there. But the question is, if they saw the Krork as basically an ally, right? Because the Krorks are warlike, yes, but they aren't beyond reason.
Exactly.
So would we get something like a Krork, Eldar, and Tau alliance, maybe? Where we see that, you know...
like Age of Sigmar level orders, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing.
I think we'd get Age of Sigmar level order where the Orks still work together with Sigmar. Maybe not fully willingly, but they do. About half the time. Because they're Orks.
Mm-hmm.
But Krorks, they're a little smarter. They'd be the smart Orks. They would actually...
A lot smarter, to be
They'd
fair.
be like Gorka Morka level, like in Age of Sigmar. So they'd actually, you know, you can point them in the right direction. They'll absolutely crump it. But they'll also be able to respond to your questions and actually answer for their own actions.
Yeah, they're very smart.
Yeah.
So what we could do is that we could get a type of Xenos Alliance, right? Maybe. Mm-hmm. So basically the way that it works is I imagine that basically for 50k you have two factions per race, right?
Yeah.
So for the Imperium, we have the Imperium Secundus or the Imperium Ultramaris, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And then we have the successor states, which are basically a hodgepodge mishmash of different nonsense, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have the Tyrannids, but then we also have the gene steel called successor states.
Yeah.
For the Necrons, we have the Silent King and his Imperium, and then we have the Stormlord. And then for the Krorks, for the Eldar and the Tau, we have the traditional Orks and Krorks where the Orks are just ruling caste, right?
Yeah.
So they just basically be an elite bodyguard unit. Your general would be a Krork. And in lore, it gives on tabletop rather, it gives the Orks something that they really need, which is a solid core of good troops.
Yeah, they need more solid in-between troops. Like, Snagger Boys don't cut it, Ork Boys don't cut it, but then Mega Nobs are, like, in any way and form, too expensive. Because...
They're really expensive.
Yeah, I need a sweet in-between. Give me something that can fight an Aspect Warrior and an Astartes. But, like, give both of them quite a decent challenge. Also, just give... Like, I don't give a shit if the gun is not that great. Just let my Orks at least hit on, like, a 4+ instead of a 5+. At least the Krorks.
No, but the thing is, though, these Krorks, these would be, like, elites, man.
Yeah, these would be
basically be... These would be Custodes, right?
Yeah.
So you could have these, like, 3 or 5 man squads. Well, RIP 3-man squads, now only 5 to 10 models. Fucking Plague Marines, bro. It's like...
Plague Marine moment.
They come in packs of 7. You have to buy, like, 5 packs to make it right? It's like, god damn it.
So sad.
It's like, yeah, you get these 5-man squads, and these are a core of solid infantry. They are perfect in shooting, perfect in melee, and then they're elites. And that gives the Orks something that they like, because the Orks don't really have any elites, to be honest.
Don't. And it's also, we don't have enough, like, So the issue with the Custodes and the Imperial Knights, for example, as armies by them whole, we don't have enough armies that are elite. A lot of armies are quite troop heavy, especially orcs, especially Xenos races as a whole. Half are like the Tau get close,
Eldar,
but not quite.
Tau, Orks. But I mean, the Tau only get there if you go battle suits.
Yeah, and unless you're an actual Gundam fan, you actually want some troops on the ground. But give me a Custodes level thing. I want 35 models. Like, no, I want 25 models on the battlefield. Like, I like that. I specifically,
my Custodes.
Personally, I'd love it.
Custodes, bro. I would love that. They butchered my Custodes. Sagittarium have strength 5. Why do Sagittarium have strength 5? Pain.
Yeah.
And they gave shield Custodes damage 1. Why does the Custodian have damage 1 on melee?
I just can't wait for, like, let's say we do get TUSKA Daemon Killer as a model, right? And we get to play him in the tabletop.
Oh god, that's gonna be so good.
He's gonna be a Krork, he's gonna be a Dreadnought size model.
Easily.
Maybe even like
no, he'll be bigger. He'll be a centerpiece. He'll be a Primarch size model.
Yeah, probably like even like Contemptor sized at this point, like Contemptor Dreadnought sized. Fucking massive, absolutely massive. And I think like rule wise as well, he'd just be a bulldozer. But actually, because he has demon stuff around him, imagine if you fight a demon army and they just are like 20% less effective. Fuck it, -1 to hit on you. Because you are the anti-demon in a lot of ways. And he's so good at it.
Exactly. They could give like the anti-demon thing on him. With the new keyword.
Yeah.
Perfect. And it's one of those, so like back to my top, you have that traditional orcs, but then you also have, the full-on Krork, which is its own unique thing. So you have the standard orc with Krorks, but then you have the hyper-elite orc army, the Krork army rather, with like other auxiliaries. You have the traditional Eldar, but then you also have, this new Alliance Eldar, the Alliance Krork, the Alliance Tower, like. It's an alliance of all these smaller Xeno races, kind of what the Tau was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And they fill in each other's weaknesses. Krorks, frontline heavy hitters. Eldar, psychic shenanigans. Tau, range firepower.
I really like that about Age of Sigmar, how I can bring an army of ogres with orcs, then some gobos, and then like some iron jaws as well, in the same army.
I love that too. It's like,
and I really like that in, remember 7th or 8th edition? I think it was 7th edition when they had the ally system still, where you could bring up to like 25% of your army as a completely different army, but they would just be a second list. So you would have to bring it.
I wasn't there at 7th. I only really got into it about the start of 8th, give or take.
Well, let me tell you, back at 7th, you had
sonny boy.
You had an ally system where you were allowed to bring up 25% of your army in another army. They would follow the same rules of building an army, which was 1 HQ and 2 troops. But then whatever else you wanted, you could add.
I love that.
So
that's quality, because
it was amazing to get some really cool stuff going.
It always annoys me so much, right? Because what people don't seem to understand is like Night Houses in lore have infantry. They're known as man-at-arms. They are basically an elite, and contrary to popular belief, they're elite troopers armed with they're basically Sebest Scions or like Solar Auxilia.
Yeah.
Right? They're mechanized infantry that follow the knights around. But in tabletop, they don't have. I don't know why they don't have that. Like, why don't you give them infantry? I don't understand.
Big models sound good.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah, like, even then, some extra.
We're Warhammer nerds, man. Are you telling me that Warhammer fans wouldn't buy a model of the guardsmen that had knight helmets and swords and shields?
Oh man, that sounds sick. Yeah, people would love that. People would eat that up so quick. But hey, who knows? Maybe 50k allows us more lore into that. I think right now that's also the biggest issue with, for example, Daemon Killer. I think Daemon Killer is a great example of just a really good lore piece. A really interesting story.
Quality.
Overshadowed
Quality.
by... It's just overshadowed by other races and other pieces of lore. Which is why it's so fun for us as lore tubers to, well, hammer talk that. Talk about that one specific piece of lore that people don't seem to think about enough.
Because that's the big issue well, having revolving writers, there's a pros and cons. The biggest pro for it is that you get so many beautiful, wonderful stories that are just quality.
Yeah.
The con is that it's only ever one story. It doesn't go anywhere.
Exactly. We only have a beginning and not an end.
The fucking Ynnari. Where did that go?
Oh, flat on his face. That's where it went. Right down the drain.
Yeah, that's the problem. What GW needs to do, when we go mainstream and when we launch 50K, they need to get a set of consistent writers. They need to have a core of like 20 or 30 writers that talk to each other. You can still have writers coming in and out to write stories and short pieces, but you need that core of professional writers that write the lore together.
Yeah.
So that way, power balances get fixed, storylines get explored, we have proper orientation, and GW doesn't have to pull the, oh, Lamau, let me retcon something in 50 books in. Fuck you, Chaos Custodes. Fuck off. Like, what do you mean? All of a sudden, they can't forever. Hey, you guys can't get possessed. Fucking 50 books later, oh yeah, Horus possessed some Custodes. What do you mean?
Pain.
God, guys, it's so annoying, man. Also, I'm sorry, but 9 possessed could not beat up 3 Custodes. The Custodes could easily mop the floor with them.
These were going for back, but still.
Still. Like, I know my boy Argel Tall, rip the homie, but still, Custodes are built different.
Yeah.
Like, Trajan fucking, was it Lorgar? I don't know, Trajan backhanded one of the Primarchs.
Yeah, he did. He backhanded Lorgar.
No, it wasn't Trajan. Constantine Valdor.
Oh.
That was it. Yeah. He backhanded one of the Lorgar. He socked him in the face. And Lorgar's a bitch, mind you, but still, that's Primarch.
That's a Primarch.
I feel like every time you bring up Lorgar, it's just like, I mean, he heard a Primarch. Was like, which Primarch? It was like Lorgar. That's why. It's just like no one considers Lorgar a Primarch.
No, he's just a really big, really sad space marine.
Yeah, really. Even though he has one of my favorite Primarch abilities, he is for those of you who don't know, Lorgar is the greatest orator of the Space Marines.
Oh.
That's his special power, is preaching, surprising absolutely no one.
Oh, who could have guessed?
It's like, when you talk about orators, you have Guilliman, who's up there, you have Sanguinius, Magnus, but Lorgar is the king of the king because it's alleged that what he does is kind of like Big E, where like when he speaks, it's like some psychic shenanigans going on or something, but it just hooks you right.
Yeah.
You know? That's why he was able to convert those worlds and they became so psychotically loyal. Because when he spoke, you bend the knee. He is the greatest orator. Problem is, he is one of the worst Primarchs. Lorgar.
A great example of what could have been an amazing character, but written by multiple people without communication, ruining specific parts of him that made him so special.
Or Angron.
That could have made him so good, just like Angron. That's why I have a smiling Angron profile picture, because it makes me happy. Mm. That's what I wish to see.
Poor Angron. It's like, what did Angron do?
What did Angron ever do, man? All right. Let's round out the podcast. I think we have fully covered TUSKA Daemon Killer as much as we physically can, because there isn't that much lore on this guy. It's like I mean, yeah, like 2 pages.
It's a simple story. The bulk of the lore comes from, like I said, he's a tool.
Yeah.
You know, what does he bring? Because the biggest issue with 40K right now, right? It does feel stagnant.
It does.
Even with everything that's happened, it still feels stagnant.
The end result is always the same, which is tiresome. Over time.
It's like, oh, the Imperium won, but it's still falling apart. It's like, maybe just show us something different, something new. And the biggest issue is like when GW did this, the last time they did this was introducing the Ynnari and the return of Guilliman and the Primaris. We know why the Ynnari failed, because it fell flat and they haven't touched it ever. I don't think they ever will. So, once again, Eldar fans, GW does not give a fuck about you.
Average Xenos enjoyer be like, oh,
Literally. I mean, God, that sucks. And then
15 years of Xenos enjoyment and I still get screwed.
Pretty much. Well, I mean, you are Eldar, so it fits with it.
I am an Eldar enjoyer.
So it's like, but then people didn't like the Primaris because, Space Marine, Space Marine. You know?
Wow, they made my Space Marine more Space Marine than my Space Marines.
Yep. And then it's one of those things where do something that you did. I think one thing that they need to go in the direction is the Severin Dominant.
Yeah.
Right? Every person who knows that lore loves it.
Yeah.
Because it's unique. And it's
special.
It's what's supposed to happen. That's why the Badab War and things like that, it's unique. And it's supposed to happen, right? You think it's a falling empire that's super decentralized, that's handing over planets. Then why does it feel that Guilliman has the entire galaxy at his fingertips?
Yeah,
you know?
It doesn't make sense. Give me an actual falling apart empire, or give me a new empire that actually makes sense to the lore we're getting right now. You can't play A and then show B.
Because we get this lore, it's like Guilliman's rebuilding Ultramar, right? But then we never see him rebuilding Ultramar.
Exactly.
And at the same time, we're like, Guilliman is in a dying Imperium, yet we never see said dying Imperium. It's like, there's so much story here. What GW needs to do, if they ever go mainstream, and if they ever do 50K, as I said, they need to make a proper storyline that is set out. Like, they need to plan like 5 years worth of lore, and then start it.
Yeah.
So that everyone knows what they're doing. Because right now, we just have... Because the Tau was set to be on a new sphere of expansion. What the fuck are the Tau doing?
Where are they? Where? When?
Literally.
How?
And it's like, because when we have this point where we have so much with the Imperium, but since GW doesn't plan this out, they'll finish a story arc of the Imperium, and then, hey, we'll do one book about Xenos. Maybe. And then we'll go back to the Imperium. Whereas if they do it structured, we have this massive story arc of the Imperium, and then here's a book about Orks, here's a book about Eldar, here's a book about Xenos. And then we could flash out everything, because the biggest complaint that, we as a community have for GW is that representation is not a thing.
No.
In terms of, like, media. Because what ends up happening is that if the Xenos get something, which is very rare, mind you, the Imperium suffers. And I know, like, oh yeah, us Imperium fanboys, we have everything, right? I know we do. Introducing Primaris Lieutenant number 15.
Probably still gonna buy it, but even then.
It does. The combat blades and the Tyrannid skull, that's quality.
Yes, it is.
Good. But it's like, yeah, we don't have anything, but if you give us 100 things in one day and then leave us out for a year, we still haven't had anything for 1 year. And the way that humans work is that we will still feel that's been 1 year.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where there's so many brilliant pieces of lore, but GW really needs to structure it properly.
Yeah, it's also disconnected, which is honestly such a painful thing, especially for things like Tuska, like the Orks, like the whole expansion sphere of the Tau, the whole craft roll thing happening with Uriel. Tell me about that stuff. I need to know my lore. Give me that information. But even within the Imperium, it's so disconnected. Like, the Sisters of Battle are incredible in one book, and then absolutely gooby goobers in the next one. Even though they're like, tell me about curving bullets. Tell me about actual like magic happening because of their belief. But if you have one artist writing that and the other one doesn't, you don't know what's true. Which I guess is a beautiful thing about the 40K setting as well. But it also leaves a lot to be desired. It is still infuriating. And GW could still do it, just on a larger scale and more structured.
Exactly. Because one of the things that annoys me is that sometimes you get very disconnected versions. Because, like, in one book, we have Astartes, for example, right? Quality film. And then we have Space Marines. What are Space Marines there? They are one-track minded, the most efficient, brutal soldiers you've ever seen. They are super soldiers incarnate. They are just utterly emotionless. They are stoic. They are super soldiers. But then we get, the heresy books where we have Space Marines throwing temper tantrums, and I'm just like, I understand you have to give him some character so we can relate to them.
Yeah.
But a Space Marine is supposed to receive psycho indoctrination, right?
This guy definitely didn't. He's having a tantrum.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you said, we're seeing one thing, and then we're reading another.
Yeah.
There's just a massive disconnect.
I am excited to see what GW wants to do. I like the fact that we are setting up for a bigger new thing. And not always saying that new is better, but because past is also good. In this case, the Horus Heresy is awesome. 40K is pretty good. But
dude, I'm
50K
happy with GW.
Would be
just
better.
Go on.
Yeah, 50K would just be better, I think, because if they can structure that, it gives them a new chance to structure their lore to the point where they don't have to go back 30 years in time to fix a piece.
Exactly.
It's all connected. It all makes sense.
That's what I said. It's the perfect way to introduce going mainstream, because you get a brand new start, but at the same time you have, and basically you could keep the gaming system the same.
Yeah.
The main reason why 30K and 40K are different is that 30K is 8th edition or 7th edition, if I'm not mistaken.
6th, 7th edition. Yeah,
6th, 7th edition. And then you have 40K, which is now based on 10th. So you could basically have 50K be 10th edition Warhammer, but with different models.
Yeah, and even then, you would still be able to use so many of your models from even the past times. Hell, you could still even use Horus Heresy models at this point. It's fine.
Exactly.
We use that shit forever.
You could have a Space Marine squad where it's like Relic Space Marine unit, and it's just like whatever Space Marine model you want.
Yeah, just like Mark 7 armor. Like, wow, that's a Relic Marine. I haven't seen those in years.
Exactly.
It's sick.
There's just that. It comes to the point where right now I'm really excited for where we're going, because Vashtorr is Vashtorr is easily top 5 favorite characters. I was going to say 3, but it's 5 because there's so many good characters.
There's so many good characters in the lore.
So many good. But Vashtorr is so good because he's the perfect example of a neutral.
Yeah.
And it's not even like neutral evil. It's more like neutral because he's not really a bad guy. He doesn't want to destroy the world.
Yeah,
he just wants what he wants.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he is so cool. He is so cool. Right. And his design, oh my god.
Yeah, it's a great model as well. Freaking amazing.
The model
it's
is
my
quality.
Favorite demon model so far.
Just wish it was better.
I wish there were more.
You can apply that to almost any unit. It's such a cool model. I just wish it had better rules.
I wish I could actually play him.
I wish it didn't cost like a quarter of my army.
True.
Oh god. What was it? The Squigget, I think? How many points is that? Like what, 800 or something?
Yeah, it's like 800 points right now. It's Titan. Points wise.
Jesus Christ.
Absolutely unnecessary. Alright.
The Squigget is quality.
But
yeah. No, I think you're right. We talked everything we could about TUSKA.
Yes, sir.
But this is as Alex said, this is what this podcast is for. It's like, hey, this random weird obscured lore of 2 pages, these 2 idiots are going to make it into a 2-hour-long podcast. It's like,
because we're excited about it.
Yeah, damn Skippy we are. But what I want from everyone watching this is to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hey, cheeky YouTuber nonsense, baby.
Aye.
But also, drop down in the comments below. What do you guys think TUSKA would happen? What do you guys think of 50K? What's a new faction you like to see? Like, give us a successor state to the Imperium and give us a new Xenos faction. Because
super interesting to hear.
Exactly, because as invested as Alex and I are, we're just 2 people, right? Because I remember when we first started talking about this, we were just bouncing off each other's ideas. So getting you guys involved is going to be bloody brilliant.
Going to be super interesting.
Awesome. But that's all from us. Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 1 of Hammertalk. Right now, it will be posted on Dutch's channel. Check him out at The Gaming Storyteller. And then it'll also be on my channel, General Bradley 101. And then we will have a channel called Hammertalk, which will be exclusive. The first episode will be posted on all 3 channels, but from then on, it will be posted solely on the Hammertalk. Don't worry, Alex and I will give you a quick little heads up whenever we do it on our own community posts. But like, comment, share, subscribe from all there. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and all of our nonsense. Talk to us. And if you have any other cool ideas for topics, let us know down in the comments below. We want to talk to you. But ladies and gentlemen, I have been General Bradley 101. I have been joined by the Gaming Storyteller, aka Dutch 40K, aka Mr. Orkiosaurus, man.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. But that has been us. And ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you enjoyed coming here. We hope that you had a very good drink and a very nice something to eat. I was trying to copy your intro at the beginning, but then I forgot about it. And then I remembered midway and I was like, fuck, I forgot to do that.
Grab yourself a delicious snack and a delicious drink. Sit back, relax. And I hope you guys enjoy the stream.
Damn, Skip.